340,000 miles. That's what the odometer read on a sedan a customer slid across my counter last week, half apologizing, asking if it was finally time to scrap it. I told him to go home and keep driving. Because here's the quiet truth of this trade after more than 20 years of it: the most unkillable vehicles in America are almost never the ones with the shiny reputations. They're the ones everybody forgot. Cheap, unloved, built back when American engineers cared more about lasting than looking clever. I've found 3 that flat out refuse to die. Salvage yards see them and sigh. Mechanics like me see them and grin. Let's count them down. Number 3, the Ford Crown Victoria. I want to start here because this is the car people laugh at right up until they own one. 2 summers ago, a young guy, maybe 24, came into my bay, dragging attitude behind him. He had just started driving for a rideshare app, and his cousin had told him to buy anything but a Crown Vic. Those are old man cars. He wanted me to look over a salvage title German sedan he was about to finance. I checked the history report, looked at him, and asked one question: how many miles a year are you planning to drive? He said 40,000, easy. I told him that German car would eat him alive in repairs before he ever paid it off, and I walked him out to the back lot where a buddy of mine had a retired police Crown Victoria for sale, a 2009 with 140,000 miles, $4,800. He scoffed. Then he drove it. He is now past 260,000 miles on that car. Total repairs in 2 years, a set of front control arm bushings, 2 coil packs, and tires. That's the whole list. Here's what nobody tells you about the Crown Vic. Underneath that boxy, grandpa-looking body is the Panther platform. Body on frame, rear-wheel drive, a real full-length steel frame. The same basic architecture Ford used on the Mercury Grand Marquis and the Lincoln Town Car. When the last one rolled off the line in Ontario in 2011, it was the final traditional American full-size sedan ever built. No unibody, no turbos, no nonsense. And the engine is the star, the 4.6-liter modular V8. Single overhead cam, cast iron block, aluminum heads, naturally aspirated, around 239 horsepower in a civilian car and 250 in the police Interceptor. It is not fast. It does not care that it's not fast. What it does is run and run and run. For most of the 2000s, roughly 85% of the police cars in America were Crown Victorias. Sit with what that means. Departments idle these things 12 hours a day, redline them in pursuits, slam them over curbs, and then sell them at auction with the engine and transmission still healthy. Taxi fleets took them well past 400,000 miles as a matter of routine. The 4.6-liter is one of the most genuinely bulletproof engines Detroit has ever produced, and you can buy the whole car for the price of a used dirt bike. Let me give you the money math. A clean, civilian Crown Victoria or Grand Marquis right now runs anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000, depending on miles and rust, and a retired police Interceptor can be even cheaper. Compare that to any modern sedan with a Turbo 4 that will be in your shop at 90,000 miles for carbon buildup and a chain tensioner. Parts for the Crown Vic are everywhere, and they're cheap because Ford built 1.5 million of them. An alternator, a starter, a water pump, these are $40 to $50 parts. The 4-speed automatic behind the V8 is old school and tough. It will usually give you 150,000 to 200,000 miles before it even thinks about a rebuild. And that rebuild is simple. It's not perfect, and I won't pretend it is. So here's your inspection checklist if you go looking. First, the intake manifold. On the cars from 1996 to 2001, Ford used a plastic intake manifold that loved to crack right at the thermostat housing and dump coolant. If you're buying one of those years, pop the hood and confirm it's been replaced with the updated manifold that has the reinforced metal coolant crossover. If it hasn't, that's a bargaining chip, not a deal breaker. Second, the spark plugs, but only on the older ones. The cylinder heads before 2004 had very few threads holding each plug in, and if a previous owner over-torqued them or a plug worked loose, it could literally blow out of the head. Ask if the plugs have ever been changed and whether thread inserts were used. On 2004 and up cars, this was improved. Third, the suspension. These are heavy cars, and the ball joints and control arm bushings wear. Get it on a lift. Grab each front wheel at 12 and 6 and feel for play. Budget a couple $100 for bushings if it's loose. That's normal maintenance on a high-mileage Panther, not a red flag. Fourth, rust and paint. Look hard at the frame if the car lived where they salt the roads. The frame is the car, so surface rust is fine, but flaking, scaling rust on the rails means walk away. And if it's a late white police car, you'll probably see paint peeling off in sheets. That's a Ford primer mistake, purely cosmetic, but it confirms you're looking at an ex-fleet car. Who should buy one? Anybody who drives serious miles and wants the lowest cost per mile on the road, like rideshare drivers, long commuters, weekend trailer towers. Anybody who values a car you can fix in your own driveway with hand tools. And anybody who's tired of car payments, because you can buy one of these outright and drive it for a decade. Who should skip it? If you care what your neighbors think, this isn't your car. It looks like exactly what it is. If you need good fuel economy, look elsewhere, and you're getting maybe 17 in the city and 25 on the highway out of that V8. And if you live somewhere with brutal winters and no garage, rear-wheel drive plus road salt is a tough combination without a good set of snow tires. But if the Crown Vic is the car the market forgot, this next one is the one enthusiasts are quietly hoarding before the rest of you catch on. The prices are already starting to climb. Number 2, the Jeep Cherokee XJ. I'm talking about the original boxy Cherokee, the XJ, built from the mid-80s through 2001, and the engine that made it a legend, the 4.0-liter inline-six. If you have never watched a tired old mechanic get sentimental, watch one when a clean XJ rolls into the shop. We get a little misty. Let me tell you about a customer named Diane. School teacher, mid-50s, driving a 1998 Cherokee Sport her late husband had bought new. She came in convinced it was finally done. 247,000 miles, burning a little oil, and a quick lube place had told her it wasn't worth fixing. I put it on the lift. The frame rails were solid. The engine had good compression across all 6 cylinders. What it actually needed was a valve cover gasket, a serpentine belt, and an oil change. 90 minutes of labor and about $180 in parts. She drove out of here, and that Jeep is still running today. The quick lube kid wanted to write off a vehicle that had another 100,000 miles left in it. That's the magic of the 4.0. It's an old design overhead valve, straight 6, cast iron, simple, deeply understressed. It makes its modest horsepower down low, where it's easy on itself. It's chain-driven, so there's no timing belt to snap, and there's no turbo and no direct injection to fail. It's widely regarded as one of the most durable engines ever bolted into a mass-market vehicle, and 300,000 miles on one barely raises an eyebrow. Jeep put this same 6 in the Wrangler, the Comanche pickup, and the Grand Cherokee, so it's proven across millions of trucks. And here's the part that should make you move quickly. The XJ is appreciating. These used to be $500 trail rigs. Now, a clean, rust-free, unmolested Cherokee is a genuinely collectible vehicle, and good ones get harder to find every year. You can still grab a driver-quality one for a few $1,000s, but that window is closing. This engine has exactly one famous landmine, and you need to know it cold before you shop. First, and this is the big one, the cylinder head. The 2000 and 2001 XJ models, plus some early 2002 Grand Cherokees and Wranglers, came with a cylinder head casting stamped 0331. That casting was made too thin between the number 3 and number 4 cylinders, and on some of them it cracks as the miles add up. The number 1 symptom is mysterious, unexplained coolant loss with no puddle on the ground. So if you're eyeing a 2000 or 2001, pop the oil filler cap and look for a milky residue, check the coolant for a clean color, and if you can, pull the valve cover and look for a hairline crack between cylinders 3 and 4. The good news, it's fixable. A reinforced aftermarket head runs around $450, and the post-2002 castings solved it entirely. Honestly, my advice is just to favor a 1996 to 1999 XJ and sidestep the whole issue. Second, the cooling system in general. This is an engine that lives and dies by its coolant. A clogged radiator, a tired water pump, a stuck thermostat. Those are what kill an otherwise immortal 4.0. Check the condition of the coolant, look for evidence of a recent water pump, and plan to refresh the whole cooling system on day 1. Cheap insurance. Third, the exhaust manifold and the rust. The factory manifolds on these are known to crack and tick. Annoying, not fatal, but factor it in. And rust is the real enemy of an XJ. Check the floor pans, the rear wheel arches, the area behind the rear bumper, and the unibody rails. A rusty XJ is a project. A solid one is a treasure. Fourth, if it's lifted, drive it carefully and feel for death wobble, a violent steering shake over bumps that comes from worn front end and track bar parts on modified trucks. A stock, well-sorted XJ won't do it. If it does, you're negotiating for steering components. Who should buy one? Anybody who wants a genuinely capable, simple, fixable SUV that will go anywhere and last forever. People in snow country who want real four-wheel drive. Do it yourself, folks. There is no engine on earth easier to learn to wrench on. And the parts are cheap and everywhere. And anyone who would rather park an appreciating asset in the driveway than a depreciating one, who should skip it? If you want a quiet, refined, modern-feeling ride, this is a 25-year-old truck, and it drives like one. Loud, trucky, not luxurious. If you need great mileage, the boxy shape and old 6 will get you high teens at best. And if you're not willing to inspect for rust and stay on top of cooling system maintenance, an XJ will disappoint you the way it disappoints anyone who neglects it. Now, my number 1. This is the vehicle I recommend more than any other to people who just want cheap, dead, reliable transportation and don't care about image, and it's the one almost nobody expects. Before I get into it, if any of this is saving you from a bad purchase, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I break down the cars worth buying and the ones to run from every week. Okay, number one. The Buick 3800, and I mean any of the big front-wheel drive Buicks built around it, the LeSabre and the Park Avenue Chief among them. I know, I can already see your face. A Buick, the car your grandfather drove to the pancake house. Stay with me, because this is the single best-kept secret in cheap, reliable American motoring, and I will die on this hill. Let me tell you about the customer who changed how I think about these. A few years back, a widow in her 70s brought in her late husband's 2003 Park Avenue to sell to me because she didn't drive anymore. It had 38,000 miles. 38,000, garaged, every service done at the dealer. I bought it on the spot for my own daughter, who was heading to college and needed something short and dead reliable that would not bankrupt her. She drove that Buick for 6 years through school and her first job. In that whole stretch, across more than 100,000 additional miles, the only things I ever touched were oil, brakes, tires, one set of spark plugs, and the intake gasket I'm about to warn you about. That's the entire list. A college kid's car, and it never once left her stranded on the side of the road. Here's why I'm so confident in it. The heart of these cars is the Buick 3800 V6, a 3.8-liter pushrod 6 that is, with no exaggeration, one of the greatest engines this country ever produced. It won Ward's 10 Best Engines 3 years running in the mid-90s, then earned a spot on their list of the 10 best engines of the entire 20th century. General Motors built more than 25 million of them over a run that lasted into 2008. The one you want is the Series 2, naturally aspirated, found in cars from roughly 1995 to 2005. Why does it last? Because it's beautifully simple and absurdly understressed. Cast iron block, push rods, none of the overhead cam complexity, a timing chain instead of a belt, and no turbo on the naturally aspirated version to pile on heat and failure points. It makes its power lazily and easily. There's a mechanic on YouTube who tears these down for a living, and his line about the 3800 stuck with me. These engines have a habit of outlasting every transmission ever bolted to them and every chassis they were ever dropped into. That matches exactly what I see in my own shop. The engine is almost never the thing that fails. I've watched these motors go 250,000 and 300,000 miles on nothing but fluid changes and still return close to 30 miles per gallon on the highway while they do it. And the price. This is where it gets almost unfair. A clean, low-mileage Lee Sabre or Park Avenue right now averages somewhere around $5,000, and you can find solid ones in the $3,000 to $4,000 range all day long. People practically give them away because of the badge on the hood. You are buying engine of the century reliability for the price of a riding lawnmower. This engine has a couple of specific quirks, though, and a smart buyer checks for them. First, the intake manifold. This is the 3800's one true Achilles heel. The upper intake plenum is plastic, and it sits right next to a hot exhaust port, so over time the plastic degrades. On top of that, the lower intake manifold gasket is a known coolant leaker, especially on cars that ran the orange DexCool coolant. The warning signs are disappearing coolant, a sweet smell, or a little white smoke. The fix is well understood and inexpensive, and there are upgraded aftermarket parts that cure it permanently. So when you're shopping, ask whether the intake manifold and gasket have already been done. If they have, that car's biggest weakness is already behind it. If they haven't, budget a few $100s and negotiate it off the price. Second, and this matters, the transmission, not the engine, is the weak link in these cars. The 4-speed automatic, GM's 4T65E, is the part that usually gives out first, often somewhere past 150,000 miles. So on your test drive, pay close attention to the shifts. They should be smooth and crisp, with no flaring, no slamming, no hunting between gears. Have the transmission fluid checked. It should be red and shouldn't smell burnt. A healthy transmission is the difference between a car that dies at 180,000 and one that sails to 300,000. Third, there's an old safety recall worth knowing about on the 1997 to 2003 cars. A valve cover gasket could let oil drip onto hot components and, in rare cases, start a fire. It was recalled and fixed for free years ago, but run the VIN and confirm the recall work was actually completed. 2 minutes for total peace of mind. Fourth, check the basics any 20-year-old car needs: the struts, the power steering lines, whether the air conditioning still blows cold. None of these are expensive on a Buick because parts for the 3800 platform are everywhere and cheap, but you want to know going in. One more tip, and it's the same one I give for any of these. The best possible version was owned by an older couple who garaged it, did every service at the dealer, and drove it gently to church and the grocery store. A little old lady Park Avenue with under 100,000 miles is basically a new car hiding under an unfashionable badge, and it will cost you less than a 3-year-old economy hatchback. Who should buy a 3800 Buick? Anybody who wants the most reliability per dollar in an American car, full stop. First-time drivers and college students, it's safe, roomy, cheap, and unkillable. Retirees who want comfort and zero surprises. Anybody on a tight budget who needs a car that simply will not let them down. And anybody smart enough not to care what's written on the trunk lid. Who should skip it? If you want anything resembling sporty handling, these big Buicks float and wallow. That's the trade for the cloud-like ride. If you need all-wheel drive or real ground clearance, this is a low, front-wheel drive sedan. And if image truly matters to you, I can't fix that. And you'll talk yourself out of one of the best values on 4 wheels. So there they are, 3 forgotten American vehicles that flatly refuse to die. The Ford Crown Victoria, the body-on-frame tank that outlasted the entire police force that drove it. The Jeep Cherokee XJ, the immortal straight 6 that's quietly turning into a collector's item while nobody's watching. And the Buick 3800, an engine good enough to make the best of the century list, hiding inside a car your grandfather drove, selling today for pocket change. Here's the thread that ties all 3 together, and it's the whole point of this video. They were built simple. Cast iron blocks, naturally aspirated, no turbos, no belts to snap, no gimmicks, engineered in an era when American car makers chased durability instead of horsepower bragging rights and touchscreen acreage. The market punishes them for being unfashionable, and that is exactly why they're the smartest money on the lot. While everybody else finances a complicated modern car that'll be back in the shop at 90,000 miles. You could be driving one of these for a fraction of the price, well past 300,000. So next time you're standing on a dealer lot and a salesman steers you away from the old-looking trade-in towards something shiny with a payment attached, you'll know exactly what he's doing. If this saved you money or changed your mind about a car, hit that like button and subscribe. I've got a whole video on the engines I'd trust to take me to 400,000 miles, and it's right here. Take care of one of these the way it deserves, and it'll take care of you longer than anything on the new car lot. I'll see you in the next one.